There's a certain kind of silence that falls when Sam Elliott walks into a scene, not because he demands it, but because his presence deserves it. And now, as whispers swirl that Landman Season 2 could be his final role, that silence feels heavier, more reverent. This isn't just another grizzled cowboy riding off into the dusk. This could be Elliott's last stand in a genre he helped sculpt from dust and grit. But is it really goodbye or the ultimate mic drop from the man who never needed to raise his voice to own the room? Let's unravel the layers of a career that became legend and why this latest role might be his most personal yet. The evolution of Sam Elliott, cowboy archetype to complex icon. For decades, Sam Elliott was the cowboy. The mustache, the drawl, the slow burn stare, he didn't just play the archetype, he defined it. But Elliott's journey isn't stuck in the sepia-toned simplicity of the old westerns. Instead, it's been a long, deliberate evolution from myth to man. What began as a career built on stoic, straight-shooting roles has slowly transformed into something more layered, more haunted, and far more human. And in Landman Season 2, that transformation may hit its final, most resonant note. Elliott's later roles, from The Hero to 1883, peeled back the cowboy myth with surgical precision. No longer the bulletproof icon, his characters began to bleed regret, age, and existential weight. Taylor Sheridan saw this shift and harnessed it like no one else. In Landman, Elliott doesn't just wear the hat, he wears the burden. He's not here to ride into the sunset. He's here to challenge the very idea of what the Western hero ever meant. And that tension between legacy and reinvention is exactly what gives this role its seismic power. By stepping into Landman, Elliott isn't just playing another grizzled vet, he's crafting a final chapter to a decades-long conversation with American masculinity. It's not about proving strength anymore, but about reckoning with the cost of wearing that strength like armor for too long. This is more than a role. It's a mirror held up to the myth of the cowboy. And no one is more qualified to break that mirror than Sam Elliott himself. Echoes of his past roles. Is this a farewell to the cowboy persona? There's something hauntingly familiar about Sam Elliott's presence in Landman. The cadence of his voice, the weight of his silence, the way he fills a frame without saying a word, all of it feels like a greatest hits reel of every cowboy he's ever portrayed. But this isn't nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It's intentional. Taylor Sheridan knows exactly what Elliott represents, and in Landman, he uses that recognition like a weapon. This isn't just another cowboy, it's the ghost of all the cowboys that came before him. Elliott's new character doesn't ride off into a literal sunset. He's navigating a world where boots are worn in boardrooms and the frontier is paved in oil. And yet, every beat of his performance echoes the stoicism of Tombstone, the melancholic grit of the hero, and the devastating wisdom of 1883. It's almost as if Landman is folding Elliott's entire Western filmography into one final statement. Not a eulogy, but a reckoning, the kind that only comes when a legend knows the trail behind him is longer than the one ahead. If this is the end of Sam Elliott's cowboy era, it couldn't be more poetic. Not because he's abandoning the persona, but because he's distilled it into something unshakably honest. In Landman, the cowboy doesn't ride alone. Untouched by the world, he's battered by it, shaped by it, and finally, heard for everything he's carried in silence. Sheridan didn't just cast Elliott, he handed him the final verse of a song we've been hearing our whole lives, and this time we're finally listening to the words. Taylor Sheridan's hand in crafting a role built just for him. When Taylor Sheridan writes a character, it's never just about dialogue or backstory, it's about legacy. And in Landman, you can feel that legacy pulsing through every scene Sam Elliott inhabits. This isn't a coincidence. Sheridan has a habit of building roles like tailored suits stitched for the actor's soul, not just their screen presence. In Elliott's case, it's as if Sheridan didn't just write a part for him, he wrote a summation. This is a character only Sam Elliott could carry, because it's made from everything Sheridan believes the modern cowboy should be. Conflicted, weathered, deeply principled, and painfully aware that the world he once knew is slipping away. Sheridan's genius is in restraint. He doesn't overload Elliott's character with exposition or melodrama. Instead, he lets silence do the heavy lifting, a nod to how Elliott has always wielded stillness like a weapon. There are scenes where you feel the weight of the oil industry bearing down on Elliott's shoulders. But it's not the oil that's crushing him, it's the erosion of values, the betrayal of grit for greed. That's Sheridan's fingerprint, embedding modern chaos into timeless faces and letting a legend like Elliott make it matter without saying a word too many. This collaboration feels less like casting and more like myth-making. Sheridan knew what he was doing when he handed Sam Elliott this role. He was offering a canvas, not a script. And Elliott paints with decades of history, pain, pride, and truth. It's a partnership forged not just in talent, but in shared philosophy. Together, they're not just telling a story, they're closing a chapter in the Western genre on their own terms. Legacy over fame: why Sam Elliott chooses roles with meaning. For Sam Elliott, fame has never been the finish line, it's just background noise to a much deeper pursuit. In an industry obsessed with fast money and flash-in-the-pan headlines, Elliott has always played the long game. His choices feel deliberate, almost sacred, like a man curating his own mythology rather than chasing the next paycheck. You won't find him popping into soulless blockbusters or hopping aboard trendy franchises. Instead, he gravitates towards stories that say something about masculinity, mortality, morality. With Landman, it's clear Elliott isn't adding to his resume, he's adding to his legacy. What separates Elliott is that he doesn't just play cowboys, he believes in what those characters represent: integrity, honor, quiet strength. And when he does take on a role, it's because the story demands it, not because his agent did. That's why Sheridan's grounded, morally complex universe is such a natural fit. Landman isn't just a gritty oil drama, it's a modern-day reckoning with old values, the exact kind of thematic terrain Elliott has spent his career exploring. It's not about nostalgia for the West, it's about reckoning with the present through the lens of someone who still remembers what mattered. To Sam Elliott, choosing a role is like taking an oath. That's why Landman feels so significant. It's not a vanity project or a career booster, it's a final statement. A chance to leave the screen not with noise, but with purpose. Fame fades, but a role with weight, a role that echoes who you are and what you've stood for, that's forever. And Sam Elliott, true to form, is aiming for forever. If this is the end, what will Sam Elliott leave behind? If Landman marks the final chapter in Sam Elliott's storied career, then it's not just the end of a character arc, it's the closing of a cinematic era. Few actors have carried the weight of the American West on their shoulders like Elliott, with that signature gravel in his voice and the kind of gaze that says more in silence than a monologue ever could. He didn't just play cowboys, he defined them, evolving the archetype from caricature to complex human being. If this is his last ride, then he's not riding off into the sunset, he's etching his boots into the desert floor one last time. Elliott's true legacy isn't built on box office numbers or award season politics. It's built on consistency, restraint, and integrity in an industry that rarely rewards any of the three. He's chosen roles that matter, even when they weren't flashy. He's played men who stood their ground, not because it was easy, but because it was right. And in doing so, he quietly taught generations of viewers and younger actors that quiet strength doesn't mean weakness, and that authenticity will always outlive spectacle. So what does Sam Elliott leave behind? A blueprint, a lesson in how to grow older on screen without ever losing your edge. A reminder that the most powerful performances don't scream for attention, they earn your respect. And with Landman, he may have just delivered his most personal statement yet. Not a goodbye drenched in sentiment, but a final nod that says, "You know who I am. You always did." Whether this is Sam Elliott's swan song or simply another notch on an already towering legacy, one thing's for sure. When he leaves the screen, he doesn't just exit. He echoes. Through every gravel-toned word, every weathered glance, every moment of stillness that somehow speaks volumes. If Landman is the final chapter, it's not an ending, it's a signature. One last powerful reminder that legends don't fade away. They choose their moment and then they ride.